Welcome back. Today we are going to continue with the bonus lecture number 2 for the Windows form array list. And the learning outcome for today's lecture is to create event handlers for the show array list button and code for the above button validations of controls and exception handling. So the lesson plan, as you can see, it will continue with the project started earlier now, and we'll create the click event handler for show array list button and a few other things, and finally run the application.
In the last lecture, we have done the design of this form, and in this lecture we'll actually bring it to life. We have done some creation in the Windows forms. We have dropped some controls, aligned them, sized them, and changed some properties. So today I am going to start with the form load event. Now if you click on this form, so a form load event is already created. Now let me tell you on the onset that this is Windows form is a event based application. Now event based means event is any action on the part of the user, so or a tester. So on the loading of this form, you could write some code, and it has got some arguments, sender and event args e. That is, at the moment we will not take these two things. It's beyond the scope, but we'll start coding right away. So I'll create a label on the fly. So yesterday we have seen that we can place the controls like labels, buttons, text boxes. Now today I will teach you how to actually do it programmatically. So new label, and then all the properties that you can set at the design time, you can do it with code also. So location property gets and sets the coordinates of the upper left corner of the relative control relative to the upper left corner of its container. So here it is a new point. It is initializing a point object, and x and y coordinates I will supply 175 and 10. So y is the vertical position of the point, and if you go back here, x is the horizontal position of the point. So now next thing that I need to do is to change the text properties. So label dot text, we have seen that whatever is set for the text property will be written on the label. So I am doing it dynamically at runtime. Please fill all the text boxes. Okay, and this dot before that there's another line. I will set the form width to be whatever, label form dot width equals I can set it to say 350 to make it wide. Okay, and then finally all these controls have to be this form control. Form is also a control. So this dot controls property, controls gets the collection of controls contained within the control. So this dot controls, to the controls collection I will add this object or this label. That's it. Okay, so let's try running this. So Control Shift B or Control F5 straight away to run the application. Build started. Right, so you can see that these fill all the text boxes, right? So it has been given this new coordinate label, and the form is set up at this width, and you have got these buttons. If you click any of these, nothing will happen, which I'll tell you, because there's no code in them, and we'll hook up the events to these buttons. So let me go back to the design. Now what I will do is, to this ArrayList show ArrayList button, I will add an event. How do you add an event? So there are two ways. There's one way is to click on here, and by default this is the click event which occurs when the component is clicked. The second way is to, if you just click on enter after putting your mouse over there, it will create a click event handler. The other way was to just double click on this button. So let's just double click. So it has already created the event. So we can start writing the code over here. Now here, what my intention is to actually create a few local variables and do some validation and exception handling for all of these controls on this form, and then finally create an array list and add the value for the form field. So this is an excellent way of interacting with the GUI or the user interface. So straight away back to the code, int convert to int. Please bear with me for a bit, and I will explain the meaning of all of these fields. Int first equals 0. It's convention to initialize an integer with 0. Bool. Now the meaning of writing these variables will be clear very soon. Bool. Now let me tell you that all of these text box controls, whatever you write, that is actually, that comes in the text property. So if you wish to read a boolean or a number or a decimal out of a text, then you have to cast it to a suitable type. The meaning will be clear soon. Decimal fourth equals 0.0 m. This is the convention of declaring and initializing a decimal. It represents a decimal number. Okay. The next one will be convert to, the meaning will soon be clear. Please bear with me. Okay, so here I will declare another boolean, bool complete equals, that's a boolean flag. It will be used for some purpose, which you'll soon know. Now what I will do is put up a try catch block for exception handling. Try something, and there's a catch at the end which you'll have to fill. Catch, the shell of this try catch, which I will write. Now here I will give it a format exception. Format exception. Why? Because I will have to check for format. So in the try block is the meat of the code. Now while, what my action plan will be is till someone writes the correct data type, like in the first text I wish to write an integer. If someone writes a string like a word, it should handle that and it should prompt the user to write a proper number. Okay, so it will be clear in a minute. So while not complete, if int dot, there is a method int dot try pass. So txt first, remember the first text box was txt first dot text. Now this takes two parameters. That is the second parameter. First is the string, second is the out integer result. So result, when this method returns, contains a 32-bit signed integer. Now this is the output variable. So this will be returned out of the try pass method. So out, now this here I will be using this variable convert to int. So the result will be returned to me in the convert to int variable. Okay, so if int.tryPass txt first.text, the returned variable will be convert to int. So here the meaning of declaring all these variables will be soon clear. So I have declared this first. So first will have, if it is convertible, if that text will be convertible to integer, then return that value and put it into a integer which is first. Okay, so first equals convert dot to int 32. I'll come to that in a bit. Txt first dot text. Now this convert to int 32, it converts a base data type to another base data type. Okay, so it is converting to a 32-bit integer. So else I'll put a curly brace over here, and this while. Now this while loop is actually going to end at the end. It will be properly formatted or indented later. So if block is complete, now else is, else what? So what I wish to do is to write to the first label, LBL first, LBL first dot text. Let me see what label I have made. First item, it is, I have not labeled the, I have not changed the label names. So these are first label, label 1, label 2, label 3. All right, not a problem. So else label 1 dot text equals, please fill only numbers. Right. So label text property is the default property. So please fill only numbers. So if the user doesn't fill any number, it will be prompted, he will be prompted to fill the numbers only. And then txt first dot text is, now there is string dot empty, it will be an empty string. There is another way of writing empty pair of braces. Okay, so do a bit of indenting over here. Now we are still in the while block. String second string, I'm going to create another variable, string second equals txt second dot text dot text. Now in this, the second one I am not going to change. I'm not going to handle the second one, because whatever a person writes, whether a string or a number, if I wish to pass it as a string, then there is no need for conversion. So, but the third one, I want to force the user to input a Boolean. So what I am going to do is I'm just going to copy this entire block of code and paste it over here. So instead of int, this will be the third one. The third row of text will be bool.try parse. So this will be text third. Txt third dot text, and out this will be convert to bool. Okay, so I will pass the result to convert to bool variable, and then it will be third. So bool third equals false. The third will be now set properly out of this block, and this will be txt third dot text. Else, now this is label 1, label 2, label 3. Label 3 dot text. So just make it label 3 dot text. Please fill only Boolean is true or false, true or false, and this will be txt third dot text equals string dot empty. Now here one thing I forgot, this line after this string dot empty line, I'll have to break out of this application. So just break out of this. Okay, and there's another mistake over here. So convert dot to, here it is Boolean. Okay, right, because third is of a type Boolean. So label 3 dot text, please fill only true or false. Txt third dot text string dot empty. Okay, now again you put a break over here. If the break keyword is used, it can be used with an enclosing while or some loop statement like do while or for each or for. So it, as soon as a person interacts with the application which prompts it to fill only numbers, it actually empties the text content if he has fill non-number, and it breaks out of the loop. Okay, it doesn't proceed any further. It forces him to put the correct type before moving forward. Right, so we have come up to this part. Now in the fourth line, I would again copy and paste this line. So here I would like to force the fourth row to be a decimal. So if decimal dot try parse txt fourth, this will be txt fourth dot text, and convert dot to decimal. Convert dot to decimal. So, and this will be fourth. Remember, fourth is also a decimal. Fourth equals convert dot to decimal. to decimal txt fourth, txt fourth dot text, else label 4, this will be label 4 now, dot text, please fill only decimal or decimal numbers, and then txt fourth dot text, txt fourth dot text equals string dot empty, and then break again. Okay, now comes the part where I'm going to add it to the array list after collecting it from the form field. So string fifth, there's another one which is left, that is fifth row, and this fifth row I just don't want to force anyone to write any particular data type, so it will be a text again, string fifth equals txt fifth dot text, and then comes an if block, if array list so what was the array list? There's another thing that I need to declare over here, that is on the top before the form constructor, an array list at the top level, just to make it in the scope, array list and array list. For bringing the array list, I'll have to actually use system.collections namespace. Okay, so system dot collections. Right, now array list class will be portable array list. So array list, name it array list with a camel casing, and new array list. Right, now we can use this array list instance. So come here, so if array list, this object. Okay, now here, if you recall from my earlier lecture on array list, the count property, if array list dot count less than equals 5, why I am doing this condition, it will be clear eventually. If array list dot count less than equals 5, then array list dot add, bring the add method. So I'll add the first, the field first, the variable first, array list dot add second. Similarly, you'll just copy it and then paste it over here, and the last line. So first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Third, fourth, first, second, third, fourth. Oh, there is one line extra, just get rid of that. Fifth. So now, before moving any further, we like to build it over here. Control Shift B to see if there is any error. So build succeeded. 4 succeeded. All 4 projects have built. That's fine. So in the final statement of today, outside this if construct or if block, I'm going to write a for each loop. For each, just to bring the values of these items. For each var, you can say item in that object ArrayList. Now here, Windows form, it doesn't take any console.writeLine statement because it's not a console application. So here the equivalent output statement is with the message box object, message box. So it will show in a message box .show method. So what the show exposes, there are 21 overloads, and the first overload is just as text. Okay, so I will use the simplest one, the first one. I'll put a text. So I'll put the string interpolation $ again. What I will write is the item is now this within the pair of curly braces, it will be evaluated. So I'll put the item, I'll get it from here, the collection of items, and then a comma, and I can write. So this was this one, string text. I'm using this, actually I'm using this overload, string text and string caption. So let me call it collection items within quotes, collection items. Okay, and that's it. So I will leave it at that, but before I leave, I will just put a message box dot show, message box dot show. If there is an exception, message box dot show fx object, that error object fx dot to string, and let's build it, and I will leave it at that and come back again and complete that. So one succeeded, right? So we'll take it again in the next lecture and complete it. From a quick recap of the lecture, we observed that we have learned the ways to add an event handler to the controls, learned how to set up the form on load with some properties at runtime, including placing a dynamic label with text, and also learned to code on the click event handler for the show ArrayList button, including the exception handling and validation for text fields.